go! Let's go, Edo!
You got
Let's
it!
go!
Give it everything!
My name's Edo Tanas. I just finished my first ever M2O, and I can't wait to talk about it. It was a very interesting race, a big emotional roller coaster, and it's a really interesting story that I can't wait to tell. The M2O is a huge deal. It's the peak of hydrofoiling. It's the way everyone can measure who is the best, the fastest downwind hydrofoiler. So if I want to talk about the M2O, I need to talk about everything that happened before that. It all started in March when I stepped on the downwind supboard for the first time and had no expectations for myself going into these races just because I was a complete underdog. No one knew who I was, and I didn't have any expectations for myself just because it was my first season and first time doing what I was doing. So I signed up for the M2M, the Maui to Molokai, just to see if I could actually complete the M2O, and if I was fit enough and could have withstood that long distance throughout the channel. And I ended up proving to myself and to others that I actually was in the mix. I was one of the top guys over there, and I ended up finishing third. And at that point, I knew I was fast enough to actually have a good crack at the M2O and possibly make it to the top. As much as this sounds like a good thing, it put a lot of pressure on me. It changed things a lot because from being an underdog and no one to worry about, a lot of people started saying, Edo, you're gonna win the M2O. And that kind of freaked me out because it was going against all my expectations and my whole mindset. All of a sudden I have a lot of pressure and expectations to perform. And throughout that, I had to remind myself that I don't need to win. I don't need to do this. I'm there because I chose to do this and I want to. And trying to like set the pressure aside and just go out there and have fun. So one of the hardest things for me was to make sure I was gonna get good sleep, just because in the past 2 months leading up to the race, every time I would go to sleep, my heart would kind of start racing just thinking about the race. And I would get really, really bad sleep. So it was a big accomplishment for me just to get to the night before race day and actually get a full 9 hours of sleep. So I remember waking up in the morning and feeling super excited and recharged because I actually got to sleep and calm down and get there in full force. So my next biggest worry was making the start, because I had to choose between two wings, a smaller wing or a bigger wing. And I kind of only put the time and effort into the small wing because I knew that if I pumped hard enough and if I was fit enough, I would have been able to sustain that small wing even in the smallest conditions ever. So I ended up going with the small one, and the hardest thing was the start because we had to flat water start up onto foil and use so much energy and then pump out an additional 10 minutes just to get to the wind line. So I ended up actually having a perfect start, and I was so happy of that. I remember popping up. I was one of the first guys. I was up with James Casey and Lenny, just right there at the front. And I was thinking like, yeah, this is it. That's my biggest worry. It's out of the way. I might actually win this thing. This is it. Like, that whole preparation that I had done beforehand was paying off. But it didn't last long because I just remember feeling fatigue in my legs, and I was like, where is the wind line? I need the wind line right now. And it just didn't happen. I ended up going down, gassed out, had no more energy to pop back up, and I couldn't believe it. So when I went down, I just like didn't even feel tired. I got back up my feet and I tried to paddle up. I almost made it up and then fell back down again. And that's when I realized that I need to sit down and get my energy back. Otherwise, I'm not gonna go anywhere. And at that point, I was just sitting on my board and watching all my competitors just go past me with their boats and just making all this wake. And I just saw kind of my dreams leaving. All that hard work and you know, all the hill sprints, the rowing machine intervals, and you know, all the nasty stuff that you don't hear about in the preparation for the race. it all seemed useless. All the people that supported me, I let down, and I had a whole crew on the boat. I had Adrian, the designer of the Axis wings I was riding. I had my sister. I had Shannon, my good friend, and he was also filming the whole thing. And Brady, my boat captain. And I was just letting everyone down. But that was just a small thought in my head. The biggest thing was just, this is the end of the race. That's it. I'm not getting back up. I'm starting at the back. This is my worst nightmare. And there's no winning anymore. So all that pressure and everything that happened beforehand was useless because it's over. I just lost the race. I didn't even make it to the win line and I'm gassed out. So I ended up just sitting on my board, and I remember complete silence, even from my support boat. Everyone was just watching, and I could kind of feel the tension in the air. They were just feeling bad for me probably because it was just one of the most frustrating and sad moments of my life. But I ended up focusing on my breathing, you know, taking deep breaths and trying to get my energy back. So I ended up grabbing my paddle, getting back up. I nailed the flat water start and I was back in the game. Too bad though, I was about 10 minutes behind everyone. So it was kind of a fresh start to the race, but I was ready at a really big disadvantage. But at least that kind of relieved a little bit of the pressure to perform because all of a sudden I have no chance of winning anymore.
So quick update on the start of the race. Edo made some technical decisions before the race. He wanted to go for a smaller foil. He was really nervous about the start, but he nailed it. He went up right away. Started pumping for a few minutes, was leading first, second, third position. At a certain point, he fell off the foil. Hang on. And started falling multiple times. He had to gather it back up, pump as much as possible. Now he's back up. He's super fast. We have some guys in front of us that we're gonna have to try to beat right now. So it's super tense, super focused, but we're up and running and we're going so fast. Let's go.
When I got into the bumps and I could finally use the advantages of my choice of using a small wing and just use all the juice from the bumps to go as fast as I could. On my support boat, Shannon was screaming, "Edo, you got this. Let's do this. Like, you're going super fast. You're gonna catch up.
You're gonna finish so fast, man. You're gaining on them, so just chill."
Even though that sounded like background noise just because I was so focused in the moment, that really helped me to realize there's still a chance of doing this. I'm going so much faster than other competitors. I was just flying by. And I was super locked in. When we got 10 kilometers off of Sandy Beach, just before China Walls, I remember Shannon raising hand and he's like, "Edo, 4, you're 4th." And I couldn't believe it. I was actually close to the podium and I still had a chance of, you know, being on the podium and feeling like a champion even after the worst race of my life. So at that point, I got just an injection of energy, but it also kind of made me get in a zone that I'd never gotten before. I was pushing myself a lot harder than I physically could handle. So my heart rate was always super high. It wasn't really sustainable. And that ended up making me fall 3 times throughout the channel. On top of that, you know, 13-minute wait just at the start.
He's 3rd right now. I just passed Andrew for 3rd. He just fell right now. It's really hard at this stage. I bet the muscles are burning like... Edo's got it. We know he's got it. Pump it out. Pump it out.
Nice.
Bravo, Edo! You got it!
As I was flying through the channel and just going as fast as I could, I remember picking up my competitors one by one. There goes Andrew Gibbons. There goes James Casey, and I'm at Channel Walls and I'm just right behind Oscar. But I also knew that I had a smaller wing and that's where I was gonna suffer the most. China Walls, my biggest nightmare.
Let's go, brother!
I had done that run 20, 30 times before and I was super comfortable with what I was doing. Just to give you an idea, you can break the race down in 3 sections. There's a flat water start, get to the wind line, then you're in the bumps. and then you get to China Walls. At China Walls, you turn headfirst into the wind. There's minimal swell, but that day it was super high tide, so there was pretty much nothing to ride, and it was pretty much a pumping race from there on. So I knew Oscar would have probably pumped further than me, but I was gonna give it my best shot and hopefully catch a wave at China Walls and make it as far as I could. So I remember seeing the crowd at China Walls, and everyone was supporting me because, you know, the local crowd, they all know me over there, and they were like, let's go, Edo.
Get his ass!
Edo!
Get
Let's
his
go,
ass!
Edo!
You got
Let's
him!
go!
Give it everything!
And it felt really good to have all that support. So I kind of locked in, everything got blurry because I was super tired, and I got tunnel vision, but I just remember paddling and pumping just as far as I could. And I couldn't even feel the pain and my heart rate racing just because I was so locked into the moment until I just couldn't go any further, and I dropped right behind Oscar. So I knew Oscar was gone at that point, but I was still in second place. So that was crazy to me. I just put my head down. I couldn't even lift my head up to paddle because my back was just so exhausted. So I just remember squishing my head on the board like that and just breathing off to the side and just thinking, this is the last stretch. I got to give it everything I got. Like, that was the hardest race of my life, and here we are. The finish line is just right there. I got to keep pushing. James ended up going down outside of China Walls, so I really thought I could have taken that second place. And as I was paddling as hard as I could, I heard James had caught a wave at China Walls and started pumping, and eventually pumped right past me, and Oscar too, and he ended up taking the win. Oscar right behind, and I came in just behind that in third. So it was definitely the most emotional race of my life. There was ups and downs, you know, from the saddest moment where I was thinking of giving up and just getting on the boat and calling it quits because I was last, I blew it. I let everyone down and myself, to the highlight when I was just in the bumps, taking my competitors one by one. Oh man, that was such a great moment. You know, my escort boat and I, all my friends and family on the boat were in the same synchrony. When I went down, everyone was silent, and then when I was just going through the bumps, everyone was screaming. My sister was screaming, like, let's go, Edo, you got this. And, you know, we were just like kind of on the same energy at the same time. But yeah, I'm really happy to take the third place on my first ever M2O. Even though that wasn't the best race I could have done, I definitely left every single bit of energy in that channel, and I'm really happy about that. I'm also really grateful for everyone that supported me, of course, and everyone that rooted for me the whole way and believed in me. I had zero expectations at the start of the season, but here I am now, and I just proved to myself that I can do this, and I can't wait for the next season where I can just tweak the little things and have a little bit more experience to take the win.